Welcome everyone, this is episode 80. Can you believe 80 videos? In this one we'll be mounting the engines on the Takom Apache, and this is of course a continuation of the last video. Guys, if you've been following this series, you'll know that in the last video we completed the T700 engines for the Takom Apache, and in this video we'll be mounting them to the fuselage. This build is of course sponsored by my favorite hobby shop here in South Africa, Supernova Studio. And do stick around, because at the end of this video I'll be supplying a promo code that will get you some discount off the current price. Now, during this month of February there's also a special promotion going on at Supernova Studio. If you spend more than 1,500 Rand, now that's excluding courier cost, you will be entered into a lucky draw. Now there's two hampers up for grab. The first is a crafter's hamper, all sorts of crafting goodies. And then the big one, the modeler's hamper. Now guys, this is a lot of stuff. It's valued at 6,500 Rand. It includes an airbrush, some modeling guides, some reference books, as well as some diorama accessories. So this is definitely something that you should take advantage of. This promotion will only run until the end of February, and the winners will be announced on the 4th of March. So do get your orders in and stand a chance to win all these great hampers. So back to the build. Now we're going to mount the engines that we detailed and assembled in the last video to the side of the Apache. And again, I'll be using my reference pictures as a guide in detailing and painting these. The first step is to complete these exhaust vents, very prominent ones that we see on the back of the Apache. Now guys, when you assemble this, do make sure to follow the instructions very precisely. There's a right and a left hand side assembly, and do not mix these up, because then things will not fit. There's some very nice photo etch parts included for this, especially on the top and the bottom of those exhaust vents, and these are glued to the styrene parts with some gel type super glue from Green Stuff World. You can see that's a really nice touch, adding some detail to the top and bottom of those vents. Now you'll see I've kept these parts in separate trays, and it's usually during painting where things get mixed up. So I use this crude little system of some tape with red and blue paint on it, just to help me identify the right and the left hand side parts. Now to prime these, I again used this rattle can Mr. Surface primer from Mr. Hobby, using the black one, and just coat these parts with a very even coat of Mr. Hobby primer. So there you can see, very nicely primed, and we're set for pre-shading, and that's up next. This is something you've seen me done before, and really nowadays I pre-shade every single part I can. Now in order to paint the exhaust manifolds and vents, I would again need to replicate the paint that I used on the engine itself. And you remember, this is something we did in the previous video. So I'll again be using pale burnt metal from Alclad, and just applying that to the bottom section of those exhaust manifold parts. You can see there, very gently doing that, trying not to kill the pre-shading that I had applied. So there we go, that's the result. And we're ready to move on to the next step. I'm going to add some exhaust manifold color, again from Alclad. Just building up the color, getting those nice contrasting metal colors in there. Guys, and I really love these paints from Alclad, highly recommended. Next up is some solid black, and that will be applied to these rear vents. Now there'll be a lot of soot and engine grime accumulated in these, because that's where the exhaust gases of course escape from. So there we go. This is the progress thus far. Next step is to use smoke from Model Color, and again I'm going to lightly airbrush this onto the rear exhaust vent, just to get that grimy, smoky color in there. Next up is dry brushing. I'm going to use a natural steel from the model color range, and again my brand new dry brushes from Vallejo, this being the medium sized one. This is now very lightly brushed onto that detail, especially the photo etch detail, and you can see there that really brings out the raised detail on those exhaust vents. Really, dry brushing makes a world of difference. So there we go. These are now painted, and they're ready to be assembled according to the instructions. One last detail to add is just to add some solid black just to the edges of those exhaust vents where most of the engine smoke and soot would have accumulated. So guys, there we go. These have been painted and they're ready for assembly. And remember those colored markings we put on the sticks before we painted these? Well, they will come in very handy now, just to make sure that we don't mix things up. These have now been glued to the engines themselves. I'm certainly loving that color, the transition from the metal to the burnt vents at the back, all with all the smoke and the soot color. Now next is the engine covers themselves. We'll be replicating that green-yellow color. And of course the first step, as always, is just to cut all the parts for this assembly. Again, I'm keeping these separate just to make sure that I don't mix up the right and the left hand side. Some really nice details, such as these little vents at the bottom. They're easily glued in place, and honestly there are zero fit issues with any of these parts. I'm really impressed. Now one of the things I quickly realized was to get the different engine cover parts properly assembled, I would need to test fit them on the side of the fuselage. So what I did is I first took the bottom section, and then the curved top section, I sort of just got these in position, and while they were on the fuselage itself, I just glued them in place just to make sure that I get that curve, the correct position right before I start gluing these. So with this done, I now have a right and a left hand side for the engine mounts, the engine covers, and of course, as always, the first step is to apply primer. Now one tip, guys, I've given you this before, is just to use some double-sided tape. Use double-sided tape with a low adhesion. You do not want to use the type of double-sided tape that you use in the bathroom to fit a mirror to the wall. The parts will never come off. Again, I also mark this with some masking tape just to make sure that I keep the right and the left hand side separate during painting. It's usually during painting where one starts to mix up things, and at the end nothing fits anymore. So there we go, the right and the left hand side. Makes it so easy just to paint these parts. Just fix them to that double-sided tape, do the necessary paint work, and just peel them off again when you're done. Of course, the correct type of double-sided tape is also available from Supernova Studio, so do stop by and get some of this. So there we go, applying the primer, just making sure that we get an even coat on all these engine mount parts. And also remember to prime the side of the fuselage for paint, because the right hand side engine bay will be open to view, so this will need primer as well. So there we go, the parts are primed, and of course the next step is pre-shading. This requires some precision work with your airbrush, certainly not something that you rush. It takes a lot of time, but guys, really this makes a world of difference, and I highly recommend this technique. So there we go, the engine covers have been pre-shaded, and next is the interior, the yellow-green color. You remember we mixed this up earlier, and you also remember that I kept a little bit in a jar. Now this is now perfect to make sure that I get the exact same color, just to match some of the interior color I used earlier. So this is now applied with the airbrush very carefully, so as not to kill the pre-shading. You can already see the very nice result. I'm covering that vent there at the side with some foam because I want to keep it black. With this done, I can now start applying the yellow-green color to the side of the fuselage. I also need to spray this interior matte type component, and for this I'm using NATO black. Now guys, the gearbox, this is mounted on the front of the engine. I always wondered what these round objects were, and they're nicely detailed. You can see they already applied some pre-shading, and I wanted to add some wiring to this. Now by now you know I like to drill these guide holes. It just makes it so much easier if later on you want to add some wiring, so I can highly recommend this technique as well. Drill those guide holes and you'll have no issue with gluing wire in place. This I first painted with pale burnt metal and then just followed up with some NATO black for that vent, that grill area in the middle. There you can see that's the result. Looking very nice. And just to get some metal shine in there, I used some graphite powder and just polish this on just to get that nice metal shine. I also applied the same pigment to the vent in the center there, as well as some of the raised detail on the side of the fuselage. Next is a wash. For this I used dark wash from MIG Productions, thinned with some odorless thinner, and this now goes into the interior of that engine bay, really bringing out the raised detail. Some really nice detail on these engine bays, guys. Takom did such a great job with this kit. Again, I'm going to use smoke from the model color range and just apply some grime and some dirt, some smoky grime to the engine bay itself, as well as to the rear portion where those exhaust vents will be, and where there will be a buildup of soot and engine grime. So there you can see that's the result, and we're now ready to mount these engine mounts to the side of the fuselage. Now getting back to those gearbox assemblies, I use 0.3mm wire, and this is just glued in place with some gel type super glue from Green Stuff World. There we go, something like this. And these two are now ready to go inside those round gearbox assemblies. You can see that's our reference pictures, and this is certainly very close. So very happy with this. Last thing to do is just to glue everything in place. Guys, and that is the engines now mounted to the side of the fuselage. I've kept one closed and one open just for some visual variety. And honestly, that open engine bay certainly adds a lot of really excellent detail to this kit. I'm very happy with the result. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, if you use the promo code LONGBOW2601, you will get a 15% discount on this kit right now at Supernova Studio. Now, if you haven't ordered yours yet, don't delay. There are only limited stock available. I think 3 kits are still available, and do make sure to get yours before they're all sold out. Folks, this is then the end of episode 80. Thank you for joining me. As always, follow me on Instagram. I do regular updates there on all my builds, and you're guaranteed not to miss a single thing. Thank you for watching.